I got home early that day. My last class was canceled, and I didn't feel like grading papers at the university office, so I stopped for a quick bite and headed home. It was barely 2:30 p.m. when I pulled into our driveway. Nothing out of the ordinary. Her car wasn't there, which made sense. She was supposed to be in Phoenix for a 3-day work retreat with her company. I even helped her pack the night before. She left that morning around 6, dragging her little rose gold suitcase down the stairs while I stood at the top, half asleep, watching her throw on a hoodie and say, "Love you. See you Sunday." She kissed me on the cheek, not the lips, and bolted out the door. So when I stepped into the house that afternoon, the last thing I expected to see was her favorite mug, the white one with the ridiculous cactus pun, "Don't be a prick," sitting in the sink, still damp. I stood there for a second, staring at it like it had no right to be there. She never left dirty dishes out when she traveled. She was compulsive about cleaning before leaving. I picked it up. Still warm. She had been here recently. My eyes scanned the kitchen, sharp now searching. No suitcase in the hall. No coat on the hook. Nothing out of place, except the wrongness of that mug. I didn't call her. Didn't text. Just walked upstairs, slow, quiet. Our bedroom door was open. Everything looked normal, bed made, air purifier humming, her side of the dresser slightly cluttered with makeup. But something was off. I walked to the laundry basket and saw a pair of panties tossed carelessly on top, inside out. Not folded, not buried. Just thrown. She never did that. She was neat, almost obsessive about her underthings. These were red lace, barely worn, but clearly worn. I picked them up. They smelled faintly of her perfume, and something else. My gut sank, but my face stayed blank. Then I saw it. In the mirror, as I turned toward the closet. A faint red line on the inside of her shoulder, just beneath her tank top strap, a scratch. Long, fresh, almost diagonal. It wasn't there 2 days ago. It didn't look like something caused by clothes or a bag strap. It looked like skin-on-skin contact. Nails, maybe. My stomach turned, but I didn't flinch. I wasn't angry, not yet. I just felt cold. A silence inside me, spreading. I sat on the edge of the bed, hands on my knees. The sheets were tucked in too neatly, like she'd made the bed after using it. I leaned down, lifted the comforter, and caught a faint whiff of something unfamiliar, a cologne I didn't own. I went back downstairs. Her iPad was on the kitchen table, charging. She barely used it, but she'd logged into everything for convenience. I tapped it awake. No passcode. Messages, emails, nothing unusual. Then a WhatsApp ping came through, and my eyes locked on the sender. "Andre Yoga. Hope your back's okay after this morning next time we stretch together. I promise I'll go easy." I stared at the screen. Didn't react. Didn't clench my jaw or yell. Just processed. She'd mentioned an Andre once. Said he was a Ukrainian-born yoga instructor who was super passionate about energy work. He taught a weekend class her friend dragged her to. I'd laughed. Made some joke about breathwork and crystals. And she'd laughed too, a little too quickly. I locked the screen and put the iPad down gently, like I didn't want to wake the dead. Something shifted inside me then, not a break, but a realignment. A narrowing of vision. I had all the proof I needed, but I wasn't going to confront her. Not yet. What's the point of a storm when silence can be lethal? No. I'd wait. Watch. Collect. While she tiptoed around me, thinking she was clever, thinking she was careful. I poured myself a glass of water and looked around the kitchen. Everything looked normal, clean, organized, homey. But it wasn't home anymore. Not to me. It was a stage, and she was acting. Badly. Let her keep smiling. Let her think I'm blind. She's not the only one who can play pretend. For a while, life kept its rhythm. Mornings were quiet. She'd hum while making coffee, scroll her phone with a lazy smile, kiss me lightly, and head off to work. We had our routines: take-out Fridays, Saturday hikes, Sunday mornings in bed. It all looked normal, even felt it, if I didn't look too closely. But I did. And once you start seeing the cracks, you can't unsee them. The warmth in her touch started fading. Little things. She stopped rubbing my back when I'd fall asleep on the couch. She'd pull away quicker from hugs. I chalked it up to stress, burnout, life. That's what you tell yourself when you're in the middle of losing someone who's still in the same room with you. She started going out more. Girls' nights, she said, with the kind of practiced smile that doesn't quite reach the eyes. It became frequent. Twice a week, then 3. She always smelled like something expensive when she left, a perfume I'd never seen her wear for me. I made a joke about it once. That's a hell of a scent for margaritas with the girls. She just laughed, kissed my cheek. and said, "You wouldn't get it." Then the gym started. Yoga, bar, Pilates, group classes. Suddenly her schedule was packed with working on herself. She started eating different, talking about alignment, emotional space, and how she was finding her rhythm again. I asked her once, gently, if everything was okay. She smiled too brightly. "It's not about you. I just need to learn who I am again." And then she rolled over and went asleep. No sex that night, or the next, or the next week. She always had a reason. "I'm tired, my head hurts, I'm just not in the mood." And when I tried to press, "Don't make this about you," she'd snap, like I was the problem for noticing. Then came the spending. It started small, a new set of makeup brushes, a fancy gym membership. Then it escalated. I saw a $600 charge for a boutique I didn't recognize. A lingerie store. I asked her about it. She waved it off. It was a gift for a friend's bachelorette. But I never saw a party. I never even heard her mention the friend again. Weeks passed, and she kept buying things I never saw her wear. Dresses, heels, lipstick shades she never wore around me. But she always looked plain at home. Sweatpants, loose tees, hair up. It was like I wasn't the audience anymore. Her phone changed too. She used to leave it lying around, open, buzzing with notifications. Now it was always face down. Silent. Protected with a new passcode. When it buzzed, she'd grab it like it was a live grenade. I remember one evening, she left it on the kitchen counter while she was in the shower. A message popped up, but I only caught a glimpse. "Friday can't come fast enough, no name." Just that. When she came back, I handed her the phone and watched her face. She didn't blink. "Spam," she said, unlocking it and swiping away the notification. Then she smiled and asked what I wanted for dinner. I started checking the mileage on her car. It didn't add up. There were drives she never mentioned, hours that weren't accounted for. One Saturday, while she was getting her nails done, I went out to clean her trunk, something I hadn't done in months. That's when I found it. A pharmacy bag, buried under a yoga mat. Inside, a receipt for gum, lip balm, and a box of condoms. I stood there, staring at it in the sunlight like it was a relic from another life. She hadn't bought condoms in over a year. We hadn't used any in even longer. I folded the receipt, put it back, and shut the trunk. When she got home, she was glowing. Talked about how renewed she felt. Asked if I wanted Thai or Italian. I said nothing. Her Instagram went private. Her stories were suddenly unavailable. I asked, half joking, if she was hiding her crazy dance moves from the world. She laughed, nervously, and said she must have hit a wrong setting. She never fixed it. Never posted anything with me after that. I wasn't in her digital life anymore, just in the background, like a ghost in the photos she stopped taking. One night, I woke up to find her sitting on the balcony, wrapped in a blanket, staring at the sky. I asked her what was wrong. She didn't even turn around. Just whispered, "Sometimes I need to be alone with myself. That's not something you can help with." Then she stood up, walked past me without a glance, and went back to bed. She was still smiling in the mornings. Still pretending. But her eyes were somewhere else. Her body was here, but everything else was halfway gone. She wasn't cheating yet, not physically, maybe, but she was rehearsing for it. Creating space. Creating a story. Building a version of herself that didn't include me. A version that had already started grieving me like I'd died. But I wasn't dead. I was watching. It was a Thursday night when the last illusion shattered. She told me she was going to a late-night yoga class, one of those deep stretch, candlelight things she'd started doing every other week. I didn't question it. I just nodded, smiled, and kissed her on the forehead as she left in her black leggings and that new form-fitting top I'd never seen her wear around me. I sat on the couch, waiting. Not for her to come back. I already knew that wasn't the plan, but for confirmation. I opened the Find My app on my phone. I'd set up location sharing months ago when she took a solo road trip to Sedona. Just in case, she'd said. She probably forgot it was still active. Or maybe she thought I was too naive to check. Her little gray dot was nowhere near the yoga studio. Not even close. She was parked on the outskirts of town, next to a strip of rundown buildings off I-17. A budget motel with flickering signage, and the kind of parking lot that reeked of regret. My hand didn't even tremble. I just stared at the screen until the dot stopped moving. Room 212. I closed the app and leaned back in my chair. My heartbeat was steady. No rage, no collapse. Just clarity. She got home around midnight, humming to herself, fake sweaty, hair tied back in a lazy bun. "That class kicked my ass," she said, tossing her mat by the door. I nodded. Asked if she wanted tea. She said no, just tired, and disappeared upstairs. I watched her go, watched her hips sway with that same arrogance I used to think was confidence. That's when I knew, completely, finally, that she thought she was smarter than me. That was her mistake. 2 days later, I tested something. I made a comment during dinner. I told her she smelled incredible. That her new perfume, the one with jasmine and leather notes, was hypnotic. She smiled, leaned across the table, and said, "You noticed? It's a new blend I got for date night." Except I hadn't smelled that perfume on her. Not at dinner. Not that night. I'd smelled it last week, faint, but present, on a pair of jeans in the laundry basket, and again on the passenger seat of her car when she asked me to fill up her tank. She wasn't wearing it for me. She just didn't realize I was keeping score now. Then it happened. The moment that stripped away whatever was left of the game. She was in the living room, scrolling through her phone, legs tucked beneath her. I was washing dishes when her phone lit up with a call. She froze. The name was just D, with a heart next to it. She locked the screen in a panic and stood up. "Be right back," she muttered, heading to the downstairs bathroom, not even her usual one upstairs, and closing the door behind her. I heard her voice, low but urgent, muffled. I dried my hands, stepped quietly down the hallway, and stopped by the bathroom door. I didn't press my ear to it, didn't need to. Her voice carried just enough. She was laughing. "No, he has no idea. You're awful. Stop. Don't say that. He told me that yesterday." Then a pause. Then, "Yes, I remembered it. I said it back to you. Word for word." I didn't blink. She was quoting me, recycling my compliments, my words, to whoever was on the other end of that line. I stepped back, walked into the kitchen, and poured myself a glass of water. My hands were steady. She came back a few minutes later, smiling too wide, pretending she hadn't just betrayed me from the next room. "Sorry, that was Danny. She's going through a breakup," she said. I looked up, smiled right back, and said, "Poor girl. She always picks the wrong guys." Later that night, while she was in the shower, I checked her phone. I already knew the passcode. She changed it 2 weeks ago, thinking she was slick. It didn't matter. She was lazy. It was our anniversary date. Inside WhatsApp, I found the chat with D. There was nothing about yoga. No girls. No Danny. Just strings of messages with double meanings, late-night photos she never sent me, and phrases that mirrored things I'd told her over the last few weeks. She was grooming him with my words. The manipulation wasn't even creative, just stolen. Cheap. Pathetic. I didn't confront her. I didn't leave. I didn't even change my behavior. I shut off the phone, put it back exactly how I found it, and walked upstairs like nothing had happened. She came out of the bathroom in a towel, pretending to be exhausted. I handed her her robe, kissed her shoulder, and said, "You've been glowing lately. I'm happy for you." She smiled, genuinely, because she thought I meant it. But I wasn't smiling inside. I was moving. Strategically. Quietly. No emotion, just design. I wasn't going to yell. I wasn't going to cry. I wasn't going to plead or punish or beg. I was going to ruin. And she was giving me everything I needed to do it. She thought she was in control. The first rule, never confront. Not when you can confirm. I didn't storm into her life demanding answers. I dismantled it piece by piece without her noticing. My first step was simple. On a random Tuesday morning, I ordered lunch to her office, not as myself, of course. I used a new DoorDash account, prepaid, and sent it to Erica at the front desk. I added a little note. "Thanks for helping me through a tough day. You're amazing." Nothing too suspicious. Just enough to make someone ask questions. 45 minutes later, I got the delivery confirmation and the driver's comment. Receptionist said there's no Erica working there today. She had told me she was spending the day in meetings at the firm. But apparently, she wasn't even in the building. I didn't text her. Didn't call. She messaged me 2 hours later, complaining about how exhausted she was from back-to-back meetings. I just replied, "Proud of you. Keep killing it." Next, I created a fake Instagram account. Took about 20 minutes. Stock images, some travel posts, a bio that sounded spiritual but vague, something she'd follow. I used it to follow her and her closest friend, Madison, the one she suddenly started spending more time with. "She's newly single," my wife had said. "Needs company." I started watching Madison's stories more than my wife's. People like Madison love to be seen. And in her little curated windows of nightlife and cocktails, a man kept showing up. Tall, athletic build, tattoos, always in the background, same guy, different angles. Not tagged, not acknowledged. But there, I ran the next move like a chess play. I asked a buddy of mine, Josh, who she'd never met, to DM her from another fake account. Attractive, believable, not creepy, just a friendly message. Hey, I think I saw you at the yoga studio last week. You looked familiar. Do you go to Flow on 8th? She replied in under an hour. Said she did. Even mentioned the name of her instructor, Andre. The guy she swore was just a yoga nerd. She was testing the waters, and I let her think she was in control. Josh didn't push, just flirted lightly. She flirted back. I pulled our joint bank records and started going line by line. One charge stood out, Desert Palm Inn. It appeared twice. Same amount, same day of the week, same time. Thursdays. Always around 7:45 p.m. I checked again. For separate Thursdays in the last 6 weeks. The same nights, she said she had candlelight yoga. I mapped the addresses. The studio was 10 miles away from the motel. She was using the class as cover and paying in person for the room because there were no hotel charges, just the gas station nearby, and always after 10 p.m., like she'd filled up on her way back. But I still wanted more. So I turned to her calendar. She kept everything on her synced Google account, and she didn't know I still had access. One Thursday, when she said she was going to Madison's for a girls' wine night, I checked the shared calendar. Nothing listed. Odd. Then I checked her location. This time, she had turned it off. Smart. But not smart enough, because her Apple Watch was still synced. I traced the ping to a coffee shop downtown, a few blocks from the motel. She stayed there for 20 minutes. Then silence. Then reappeared on the radar around 10:30, on her way home. I didn't tail her. I didn't follow her car. I followed patterns. I followed what didn't make sense. I asked her questions I already knew the answers to. How was the wine night? Did you and Madison catch up on that show you love? She lied easily, smoothly, but every answer she gave me was just another nail in the coffin she was building for herself. One night, I asked her a question that had no correct answer. Do you remember that couples retreat we talked about in Flagstaff? The one you said you'd look into? She blinked. Yeah, I emailed them last week, she lied. I nodded. I had already emailed the retreat myself. Not only had she never contacted them, but she had unsubscribed from their newsletter 6 months ago. Strategic lies. Empty bluffs. She wasn't just careless, she thought I was dumb. I wasn't watching her anymore. I was hunting her. I started planning the final act. Slowly. Patiently. With the kind of precision that comes from knowing you've already won, and they don't even know the game started. Because the deeper I dug, the clearer it became. This wasn't just cheating. This was premeditated. Cold. Mechanical. And that made it easier. She wasn't a woman in pain, or lost, or confused. She was a liar in control of the steering wheel. But she was driving blind. She thought she was clever. But the walls were closing in. And I was holding the blueprint. I told her I booked a reservation for our anniversary. 10 years, I said, smiling. Let's do something fancy. She lit up like she still believed she deserved to wear the role of wife. She wore that new black dress, the one I never saw before but recognized from the boutique receipt she tried to lie about. Hair curled, eyes gleaming, lips red like she still had something to offer me that I hadn't already seen her give to another man. We pulled up to the rooftop restaurant downtown. She leaned over in the elevator, kissed my cheek like nothing had happened. I smiled, because I knew what was coming, and she didn't. We were seated by the window. I ordered wine. She was talking, laughing, nervously, saying how grateful she was that I'd been so supportive while she'd figured herself out. I nodded, told her she looked beautiful tonight. She beamed like a child who just got praised for coloring inside the lines. The waiter came. I asked him if the screen was ready. He nodded. I lifted my glass. To truth, I said, raising it halfway. She raised hers, unsure. Then I reached into my pocket and placed a small USB drive on the table between us. She blinked. Her smile faltered. The waiter walked to the mounted screen on the far wall, part of the restaurant's romantic presentation service, usually used for birthday videos. But tonight, it had another purpose. The screen flickered on. First, a photo, her walking out of the Desert Palm Inn, hair tied up, holding her heels, laughing, not even trying to hide. Then another, the motel parking lot, her car, next to a gray Honda Civic registered to Andre, the yoga guru. Then the third photo, the one that shattered her mask, her sitting in that Civic, straddling him in the front seat, arms wrapped around his neck, his hands up her dress. She made a choking sound. What is this? Her voice cracked. The entire table next to us turned. She reached for the USB, but I slid it away. Calmly. Like it wasn't even personal. Just a highlight reel, I said. She shook her head violently, like her brain couldn't process what her eyes were seeing. It's not what you think, she began. It was one time. It meant nothing. I tilted my head. It's been going on for 4 months. Thursdays. Candlelight yoga. I smiled. Do you want me to list the rooms by number or by position? She looked around, realizing this wasn't private. Her voice dropped. Please, not here. Her eyes were glass now, her face pale. She tried to reach for my hand. It was a mistake. I didn't plan it. I felt invisible. There it was. The excuse. The twist of blame. I stared at her hand like it was a stranger's. I gave you space. You used it to fuck someone else in a $40 motel off the interstate. My voice was calm. No edge, no emotion. Just a fact. She started to cry, real tears this time, not manipulative ones. Please. We can fix this. I'll cut it off. I'll go to therapy. I'll do whatever it takes. Her voice broke into sobs. I sat back, looked at her like a puzzle I'd already solved and grown bored of. You don't need therapy, I said softly. You need a mirror. She looked up, confused, mascara streaking down her cheeks. A mirror, she whispered. I leaned in slightly. So you can finally see the woman you've become. Because I sure as hell don't recognize her anymore. She fell silent. For the first time in months, she didn't have an answer. Didn't have a script. Her shoulders collapsed. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. I stood up, placed a small envelope on the table, my wedding ring inside. There's a moving truck coming tomorrow morning. You have until noon. I turned to leave, paused, then added, you won't be coming back from this. She called the next morning before the sun even cleared the roof of the neighbor's house. Her voice was calm, almost cold, the tone of someone trying to armor themselves with logic after being stripped of power. I'm not going to apologize to someone who's just been there, she said, like she'd been rehearsing that line all night. I was suffocating, and you didn't even see it. We're both to blame. I didn't respond. I just listened. Silence from me was louder than any scream, and it hit harder too. She kept going. Do you even understand what it's like living with someone who's just flat? No passion, no change, just the same boring rhythm every day? Her voice was rising, not with strength, but desperation. She wanted to trigger me, dig under my skin, spark something that would let her shift the blame. I was miserable, she said, her voice breaking. And you didn't even notice. I hung up, not out of anger, just disinterest. She called again 5 minutes later. Then again. I didn't pick up. Then came the texts, screen after screen of old photos, screenshots of our messages, recycled quotes, crying emojis. Do you remember San Diego in winter? When you said you'd never let me go? She wrote. Then a pause. Then the next act. I never really cheated. It was just physical. Just a moment. My heart was always with you. That was the part that made me laugh, silently. The same mouth that used my words to sweet-talk another man was now preaching about loyalty and love. She started playing the victim again. I was lost, and you didn't reach for me. I was screaming inside, and you stayed silent. Her self-pity was thin, like cheap fabric trying to cover a wound she inflicted on herself. I didn't reply. I didn't type a single word. I let her drown in her own manipulation quietly. The next day, she showed up at the house. The door was locked. Her keys didn't work. I'd changed the locks that morning. She banged on the door, called my name, shouted. Then silence. Then another text. Seriously? After everything we've been through, you won't even let me in. A minute later, another. You know what? You were always cold. I forced myself to love you. I gave you everything, and you were just convenient. That was her final performance. When the victim role didn't work, she tried to flip the script. She came in swinging, but her words had no weight anymore. She was throwing punches into the wind. And I didn't flinch. I didn't move. She wasn't talking to me, she was shouting at the wall I'd become. When she finally tracked me down at the parking lot outside my new office, I stepped out to meet her. She was standing there in a black coat, holding old letters in her hand, her eyes heavy with mascara and desperation. Her voice trembled, but she tried to stay composed. You just ran, she whispered. You're a coward. I looked at her. Not with hate. Not even disappointment. Just finality. No, I said, my voice low and steady. I didn't run. I just stopped holding on to something that's been broken for a long time. She flinched at that. I was weak, she said quickly. I made a mistake. I nodded. and now you live with it. She called the next morning before the sun even cleared the roof of the neighbor's house. Her voice was calm, almost cold, the tone of someone trying to armor themselves with logic after being stripped of power. I'm not going to apologize to someone who's just been there, she said, like she'd been rehearsing that line all night. I was suffocating, and you didn't even see it. We're both to blame. I didn't respond. I just listened. Silence from me was louder than any scream, and it hit harder too. She kept going. Do you even understand what it's like living with someone who's just flat? No passion, no change, just the same boring rhythm every day? Her voice was rising, not with strength, but desperation. She wanted to trigger me, dig under my skin, spark something that would let her shift the blame. I was miserable, she said, her voice breaking. And you didn't even notice. I hung up, not out of anger, just disinterest. She called again 5 minutes later. Then again. I didn't pick up. Then came the texts, screen after screen of old photos, screenshots of our messages, recycled quotes, crying emojis. Do you remember San Diego in winter? When you said you'd never let me go? She wrote. Then a pause. Then the next act. I never really cheated. It was just physical. Just a moment. My heart was always with you. That was the part that made me laugh, silently. The same mouth that used my words to sweet-talk another man was now preaching about loyalty and love. She started playing the victim again. I was lost, and you didn't reach for me. I was screaming inside, and you stayed silent. Her self-pity was thin, like cheap fabric trying to cover a wound she inflicted on herself. I didn't reply. I didn't type a single word. I let her drown in her own manipulation quietly. The next day, she showed up at the house. The door was locked. Her keys didn't work. I'd changed the locks that morning. She banged on the door, called my name, shouted. Then silence. Then another text. Seriously? After everything we've been through, you won't even let me in. A minute later, another. You know what? You were always cold. I forced myself to love you. I gave you everything, and you were just convenient. That was her final performance. When the victim role didn't work, she tried to flip the script. She came in swinging, but her words had no weight anymore. She was throwing punches into the wind. And I didn't flinch. I didn't move. She wasn't talking to me, she was shouting at the wall I'd become. When she finally tracked me down at the parking lot outside my new office, I stepped out to meet her. She was standing there in a black coat, holding old letters in her hand, her eyes heavy with mascara and desperation. Her voice trembled, but she tried to stay composed. You just ran, she whispered. You're a coward. I looked at her. Not with hate. Not even disappointment. Just finality. No, I said, my voice low and steady. I didn't run. I just stopped holding on to something that's been broken for a long time. She flinched at that. I was weak, she said quickly. I made a mistake. I nodded. And now you live with it. Revenge isn't rage. Rage is loud, messy, short-lived. Revenge, when done right, is precision. Cold. Surgical. And I had all the time in the world. The night I walked away from her in that restaurant, I already knew what the next steps would be. I didn't scream. I didn't smash anything. I went home, opened my laptop, and started making moves. The first was legal. I had quietly been speaking to a divorce attorney for weeks, not the kind you find online, but a specialist in high-asset separations. He was already briefed, already had a file. I forwarded him every screenshot, every receipt, every timestamp. Motel invoices, her WhatsApp backups, even the fake account messages she sent when she thought she was flirting with a stranger. Every lie documented. Timestamped. Matched to GPS. Nothing illegal. Just organized truth. Then I moved to the accounts. Our finances had always been linked, but I was the one who controlled the spreadsheets. She never bothered with them, never paid attention to whose name was on what. I had already opened a new bank account, moved my salary there, and locked down the joint one. She woke up one morning and found her credit card declined at a boutique. I know, because I timed it. I waited until she'd be mid-purchase. Her message came within minutes. Hey, weird, my card's not working? I didn't answer. The car came next. She'd been driving the Audi I bought last year. It was under my name, my insurance, my money. I filed for a repossession request with my dealership. Not stolen, just reallocated. When she came outside the next day and saw the empty parking spot, she thought it had been towed. I let her sit with that for a few hours before she got the call. The car's been returned to the owner. No yelling. No threats. Just clean execution. I also had the lease on our apartment adjusted, removed her name quietly, paid the fee, and notified the landlord. I gave her notice by email, exactly 30 days. She tried to protest, said she had nowhere to go. I reminded her that motels didn't seem to be a problem for her before. She stopped replying after that. But the real strike wasn't legal. It wasn't financial. It was social. Her friends always thought she was the wise one, the stable partner. She curated that image. She lived in it. So I ended it. I printed out the evidence, not to shame her, but to show the difference between who she pretended to be and what she really was. Then I hand-delivered the folder to her parents. No drama. I just rang the bell, greeted her father like I had countless times before, and said, "I thought you should know who your daughter really is before you keep calling me the lucky one." Her mother cried before opening the file. Her father said nothing, just took it and closed the door. An hour later, she called. I didn't pick up. A message came through. "How dare you go to my family?" I deleted it. The second copy went to Madison, the friend who supposedly covered for her during all those fake nights out. I sent it anonymously, but I made sure the envelope contained screenshots of Madison's boyfriend reacting to the images. Just enough to seed doubt. I wanted her to feel the walls closing in from all directions. Then I stripped the rest. I went through our shared cloud and deleted every photo, every shared playlist, every backup that had my name on it. She was locked out of our digital life in one click. She messaged, "Where's our vacation folder? I wanted to save the ones from Big Sur." I replied once, "Delete means delete." Nothing else. I didn't gloat. I didn't rub it in her face. I let her spin in her own silence. Let her try to call the people she thought were on her side and realize they were either gone or questioning her. Her world didn't collapse all at once. It cracked. Slowly. Strategically. First her car. Then her access. Then her image. Then her identity. She had no money. No transportation. No story that held water. And nowhere left to point the finger. All of it planned. All of it legal. All of it clean. She thought she was clever when she lied. She thought she was powerful when she hid. But the truth is, she never realized she wasn't playing a game. She was the game. It happened at the reunion. 10 years since graduation, the perfect setting for people to parade their polished lives, boast about their jobs, their kids, their glow-ups. She insisted we attend separately. Said it would be less awkward, considering the circumstances. I agreed. Not because I cared. I just knew she'd show up in full performance mode, hoping to reclaim some control in a room full of familiar faces. What she didn't know was that the room already belonged to me. The truth had been seeded in whispers weeks before. Quiet messages, casual conversations. Screenshots sent to the right people, stories shared in just enough detail. Nobody confronted her. Nobody warned her. They waited. They watched. She arrived in that same black dress, acting like she still had a stage, laughing too loud, hugging old classmates, telling the story of her fresh start like it was some bold act of liberation. A few smiled back, some politely. Most didn't engage. She noticed the silence around her in waves, first confusion, then discomfort, then fear. People weren't rude. They were quiet, like witnesses waiting for the verdict. And then came the moment. We were in the main hall, drinks in hand, soft music playing, the buzz of half-forgotten friendships echoing through the air. She tried to reclaim the center of attention, telling some embellished story about how hard she worked for her promotion. That's when Sarah, her old college roommate, and one of the people she hadn't thought to manipulate, cut in. Calm. Sharp. Is that before or after the weekly motel appointments with Andre? The room fell silent. You could hear the bass drop from the speakers, but not a single voice. Her face froze. Eyes darted. She laughed, fake, defensive, cracking. "Excuse me," she said, too loudly. "That's a hell of an accusation." Then someone else stepped forward. Jake, her ex from sophomore year, who'd stayed in touch with half the room. "I saw the photos," he said simply. "We all did." And that was it. No yelling. No drama. Just truth. Cold and undeniable. She looked at me then, as if expecting I'd step in, defend her, say it was all a misunderstanding. But I just watched. Still. Detached. Her mask cracked. "This is all lies," she said, voice shaking. "He's bitter. He's spinning shit because he can't handle losing me." Someone near the back laughed. Not mockingly. Just disbelieving. Madison was standing beside me, the same friend she once used as an alibi. Now fully on my side. Madison raised her phone casually. Then explained these. The texts. The locations. The receipts. Your little alignment sessions. Her voice was light, but her eyes cut through her like a scalpel. She turned red, then pale. She turned toward the door like she could walk out of that room and back into whatever illusion she thought she had. But another voice called out, "What about your parents? They know too, right?" She froze. Her hands started to shake. Because that's when it truly hit. There was nowhere left to run. Her father had stopped speaking to her after the folder. Her mother, from what I'd heard, cried for 3 days and told the rest of the family not to invite her to the next gathering. Andre? Gone. Disappeared the moment the exposure went public. Blocked her number. Deleted her from socials. She was no longer a secret, she was a liability. And I? I stood still. Not smug. Not smiling. Just silent. The center of gravity in a room that had already passed judgment. She walked over, slowly, trying to collect herself. Her eyes were glassy, but her mouth still fought to stay composed. "You happy now?" she said under her breath. "You destroyed me." I looked her in the eye, not with anger, not with pity. Just finality. "No," I said quietly. "You did." She blinked like she'd been slapped. Like for the first time, the truth wasn't a rumor or a screenshot or a whisper. It was a sentence. Final. Sharp. And it came from me. She turned away then. Not storming out, not running. Just walking slow, defeated, like someone stepping off a stage and realizing the lights aren't coming back on. The silence she left behind was heavier than any applause or outrage. It was justice. And I stayed there, in the room she thought she could still control, with the people who no longer saw her as anything but what she truly was. I didn't chase her. I didn't celebrate. I just sipped my drink and let the night breathe. It happened 3 weeks after the reunion, in a place neither of us expected to cross paths again. Her parents had invited me to their 30th wedding anniversary celebration. Out of habit, respect, or guilt, I wasn't sure. Maybe they wanted a reminder of who their daughter used to have. Maybe they wanted to make a statement. Either way, I came. Suit sharp, mind sharper. The venue was small, elegant, filled with familiar faces. I wasn't there to cause a scene, but fate rarely respects silence. She arrived late, dressed to kill or maybe to resurrect whatever scraps of dignity she had left. Her eyes found mine the moment she stepped in. The air between us crackled like a live wire. She marched toward me before even greeting her parents. No smile, no mask, just raw, unfiltered frustration. "So this is what you do now," she hissed under her breath. "Turn my family against me? Parade around like the wounded hero." I didn't flinch. "I didn't turn anyone," I said calmly. "You just stopped hiding, and they saw you." Her voice raised. "You're pathetic. You think you won just because you got to tell your version first." Heads started turning. Conversation stalled. Her father took a step closer, trying to mediate. "Sweetheart, maybe we should take this outside," she cut him off. "No. They all need to hear this. Let them see how perfect he really isn't." Her hands trembled now. "You were never there for me. You buried yourself in routines and called it stability. I made one mistake. I laughed once, short, sharp. One? You made a lifestyle out of it." Her face turned red. "You humiliated me in front of everyone. My job, my colleagues saw the posts. Do you have any idea what you cost me?" I raised an eyebrow. "Your job? Or your cover?" That's when she snapped. "You think you're better than me?" she shouted, her voice echoing off the walls. "You're just a coward who waited for the world to do the dirty work for you." People were backing up now, clearing space like the floor had become radioactive. Her mother tried to grab her arm. "Please," she whispered, "this isn't the place." But it was too late. The dam had broken. From the back of the room, a familiar voice cut through. Andre. He hadn't spoken to her since the exposure, but here he was, leaning against the wall like he didn't care, like he hadn't ghosted her when it all went public. "You told me you were divorced," he said, loud enough for the room to hear. "Told me he cheated first. Looks like you lied to more than just him." Her head snapped toward him. "You're one to talk. You disappeared when things got hard." He shrugged. "I disappeared when I realized I wasn't the only alignment session on your schedule." That hit hard. She turned back to me, eyes wide with betrayal, completely unraveling. "You think this makes you strong?" She spat. "You broke me." I stepped forward, not to intimidate, but to end it. "No. You broke yourself. I just stopped pretending you didn't." She swung then, not with her fist, but with her words, sharp and reckless. "You're emotionally dead. No woman could ever love someone as cold as you." The crowd tensed. Some gasped. Her father finally stepped between us, hands up, eyes exhausted. "Enough. That's enough." But she kept going. "He manipulates people with silence. He plays the victim, but he's poison. That's when her best friend, the one who had turned against her quietly after learning the truth, stepped in. You hurt people, and you expect them to heal you, she said. Calm. Deadly. You cheated, lied, gaslighted everyone around you, and now you're mad the spotlight isn't yours anymore? The room froze. Her mother sat down, quietly crying. Her father looked down at his shoes, shaking his head. And she, the woman who once controlled every narrative, stood there shaking, no script left to recite. I leaned in just enough to whisper, this isn't revenge. This is reflection. You're just finally seeing what the rest of us always did. She slapped the wine glass off the table, not at me, just away, like she wanted the noise to save her. The glass shattered. Security from the venue approached. One of the staff calmly asked, should we escort her out, sir? I didn't respond. Her father did. Yes. I think it's time. They led her outside. She didn't resist. She didn't scream. She didn't look back. And I stayed. Right there. Among friends. Among truth. In peace. Everything she built was gone within months. The polished image, the curated social circle, the carefully constructed identity, all of it burned quietly under the weight of her own choices. It started with her job. HR called her in just for a conversation. They mentioned concerns, rumors, screenshots. The board didn't want noise. They used words like optics and reputation management. She walked out with a box of her things and a politely worded termination letter, and signed sympathy on paper. Her coworkers, once friendly, stopped replying. Emails were left unread. Her LinkedIn recommendations disappeared one by one. Then came the friends. At first, she tried to rally them, to spin the story. He twisted everything, she'd say. It was just one mistake. But no one bought it. Screenshots don't lie, and people remember patterns. One by one, they unfollowed. Then they blocked. Then they stopped talking altogether. Even Madison, her longtime fallback, ghosted her completely. In the coffee shop near her parents' house, people she used to call her people now turned away when she walked in. Some didn't say hello. Others looked through her like she didn't exist. Her mother stopped defending her. Her father said little at all. Silence became her new soundtrack. She moved out of state 6 weeks later. New city. Cheap apartment. Job behind the counter at a coffee shop where no one knew her name. She smiled at strangers, made small talk, laughed at dad jokes from baristas half her age. But the mask was thinner now. Beneath it was someone barely holding together. The man she broke everything for, Andre, was gone 3 days after she lost the apartment. I'm not looking for drama, he texted. I thought you were free. Turns out, you're just available. He blocked her after that. She didn't post photos anymore. Just fake quotes, black and white selfies, captions about growth through pain. She started writing to me. At first, it was bitter. Then it became desperate. I miss you. You don't even know what you meant to me. I was broken and didn't know how to ask for help. Then finally, I still love you. I replied once. That's strange. I can't even remember your name. She came back to the city in autumn. I don't know how she found my address. Maybe her mother gave it to her. Maybe she remembered the rhythm of my life better than I thought. She knocked. I opened the door. And there she was. Smaller. Dressed simply. No eyeliner. No foundation. No mask. Her eyes were already red. Please, she whispered. Can I just talk to you? I stepped aside. Not to let her in, just so she could see I wasn't afraid. She stepped in anyway, hands shaking. I don't sleep. I don't eat. Everything reminds me of you. Of what I did. Her voice cracked. I thought I was chasing freedom. I was running from myself. I stood still, watching her. She sat down without asking, clinging to her own knees like a child. I'm not asking to undo anything, she said. I just need you to know. I see it now. You were everything. I didn't see it when it mattered. Her breath hitched. I ruined it. I ruined you. I ruined me. She looked up, eyes soaked, mouth trembling. Please say something. I looked at her. I didn't see the woman who lied. I didn't see the seductress who played victim. I didn't even see the coward who blamed love for her boredom. I saw a stranger. A ghost of choices made and bridges burned. I did love you, I said. Once. Her lips parted in hope, too fast, like she thought that would be the opening. But not anymore, I added. She froze. You loved the idea of love, I said, voice flat. You loved being adored. Worshipped. But you never valued it. You spin it like spare change. I didn't mean to, she started. I know, I said, cutting her off. You didn't mean to. That's the only thing you ever mastered, doing damage without ever taking responsibility for holding the knife. She broke then. Her shoulders collapsed, breath ragged, sobs tearing through her throat like something guttural and helpless. She reached for my hand. I didn't move. "Please," she cried. "Tell me what I can do. Anything. I'll fix it." I tilted my head slightly, calm, detached, watching her fall apart on my living room floor like a sculpture crumbling in slow motion. Then I leaned in just enough to whisper the final truth. "What would you do if you were me?" And I closed the door behind her,